DC here. Hi guys and gals. Well, it's Monday and I'm going to be doing a vlog because something really weird just happened to me about, I don't know, half an hour ago. I was getting out to go for a walk, leaving the house, and I was going to listen to a podcast, and after the podcast I was going to do the 2 tag videos that I usually do on Monday. Well, there's a car that stops near me and asks, and the person was speaking French, but definitely was Italian from his accent and everything. And it was a rental car. You can tell that by the license plates. And he said, Sir, can you help me? I need to know the road to go to Milano. And my GPS is not working. Oh, well, I have a phone. Anyway, I didn't say that. And so I said, okay, I'll help you. And then he looks at me and he says, oh, sir, I must tell you, you have an absolutely elegant hat. Oh, thank you. Because you have very much style and class. So, okay. So I joked and I said, well, the hat is Australian. It's usually not a sign of great class. It's in the eyes of some. So then he keeps on and he said, are you in the business of style? And I said, no, really not. So yes, he says, well, he says, what is your profession? So I told him I'm a retired scientist. Okay, then I looked up on started to explain how to go and get the motorway. And I said, well, look, I said, I'll put up Google Maps and I'll show you on Google Maps. I said, it'll be easier, then you can remember the keywords. And so we did that. And then he said to me, he says, I work in style. Do you know this store? And then he says, I'm a representative for Brioni. Brioni is a very classy, high-end suits and so on. And I said, okay, frankly, I thought I said, okay, but anyway, so then he looks at me and he says, oh, what is your size? And then he continued by saying, you have to get to Milano. Actually, he said that before. He's had to go to Milano because his wife is going to have a baby in a few days, and he had to get back, absolutely. And then he turns around to me, then that's when he said, and what is your size? And I say, well, why do you want to know that? Well, he says, since I was in Geneva, and I ended up here, and he says, now I have to go back to Italy. I have clothes that I had for some type of exposition or whatever at the store. And then he pulled out a suit. And he said, I would like to give, you are so nice with me, I would like to give you this suit, but you have to promise that you will not give it to anybody else. And I thought, well, okay, strange thing, but let's see it, So he pulls out this absolutely fantastic suit with, I don't know, it was, I don't know, the Brioni and Dagocleo. He said, how much do you think this suit costs? So I pull out a price, it was ridiculously low. And he says, but no, he says, this is the Porsche of all suits. So it was like 3,500 euros. And then he pulls out another one, and another one, and then a jacket. And then he says, and he even asked me, he says, try it on, the jacket. Well, I did try it on, actually. It was really nice. Nothing that I wear, though. And so he says, you've been so nice to me. And the last thing he pulled out was like a trench coat type thing, but an unbelievable type of material. It was worth supposedly 15,000 euros. And I looked at him and said, well, you're not going to give me these things. That makes no sense. And he says, well, it don't cost me anything, but we can do it this way. You just give me, and then I thought, uh-oh. He said, you just give me the amount of the first suit, and I will use it to buy a nice gift for my wife. And it was like all alarms were going off all of a sudden. So I had these suits, in my hand, and like I say, they were really nice things. And I said, no, I can't take any of this. He said, but why? But why? Is it the money? I said, well, yes, and this does not make any sense. And I will not take these 3 suits and this coat from you. I said, I will put them back in your car, and I hope you have a good trip. He said, but I don't understand. And he even gave me his card, and he invited me to, it's going to be a fashion show in a big hotel in Bern. And he says, contact me, and I will give you as many tickets as you need to go there. And I thought, okay, yeah, sure. And by then I was like just kind of hoping, that he'll be leaving before long. So he was actually, very classy. But I guess that, what am I supposed to expect? I don't know. Anyway, it was very interesting. But why would somebody want to give me probably 30? I had the equivalent of like 35,000 probably euros of upper end clothes. Now don't ask me where they came from. Is the card legit and so on? Things like that. You don't know anything of that. And even if the guy was partially right, how was I going to pay him for a gift and so on and so on? You see, there was just so many strange ramifications, and his French was very choppy, so it wasn't even clear. At first I clarified, I said, so you want me to give you money, right? And then he backpedaled a bit and said, well, only for the first, I will buy it for a gift, and all the others are free. I thought, yeah, sure, okay. He said, no. I don't know. Was it stolen goods? Was it some type of, I was almost going to say some type of scheme? And many times he said, it's very important that you do not give this to anybody else. And then at one point he was a little bit different. He said, is your son of the same size? I said, well, he's smaller than I am. Because you could also give it to your son. And I thought, okay. Anyway, really weird, wasn't it? Okay, that was it. That's what happened today. So that'll be it. DC signing off. Take care, everybody, and hope you have a good Monday and a good week. Bye-bye.